welcome back to the Mike and Andrew Show. I'm Andrew Serwick here with Mike Meredith. Mike, it's kind of weird today. We won't be picking games this weekend for the NFL. It's going to be a weird episode for us, but how you doing tonight, man?
Pretty good. Yeah, no games. I mean, the Pro Bowl, but that's not even really a game. That's just a fucking, youth football bullshit, man. Like, it's not even a game anymore, man. They're just fucking around out there.
Yeah, it's just flag football, guys just being dudes, pretty much. Um, but so let's get into it. We got a decent amount of NHL stuff to talk about. We're gonna do NHL power rankings. We got the All-Star game as well. We got NBA power rankings as well, and we're gonna talk some NFL with some coaching hires. So there's no more vacant positions in the NFL for head coaches. There's still some coordinator positions that are wide open. So let's get into it, man. Atlanta hires Raheem Morris. Um, it's a decent hire, I would say. He's already got his staff picked out as well. Um, he's got a lot of work to do, um, and most of that work is just finding a quarterback. Um, and so he's gonna have to work with their GM out there in Atlanta for sure. Maybe try to work something up to get a top quarterback because where they're picking, they're not gonna fucking find anything out there.
Yeah, I'm really not a big fan of defensive coaches, to be honest with you. I think in this league now, man, the success that offensive coaches have had. I mean, look at the playoffs. Like a lot of the top teams were offensive-minded head coaches, like the Shanahans, the McVays, the Fleurs. Just I kind of like that routing for coaching, but I don't think the Raheem Morris is a bad hire by any means. But yeah, just you don't really have nothing to work with unless you get that QB situated.
Yeah, I mean, and that's their biggest issue is finding a QB because they're not picking up very high, and finding a quarterback outside the top five is honestly very very hard. Just statistically in the NFL. So they have their work cut out for them. But one thing I've noticed is in the league is you'll see a team hire an offensive minded head coach, they tank, and the next person they hire is a defensive minded head coach, and you see that flip all the time. You see teams go from defensive head coaches to offensive head coaches, and you see them go offensive head coaches to defensive head coaches, and I I understand wanting to go for an offensive coach, but at the end of the day, defensive coaches aren't necessarily bad. I mean, um, there's been a lot of successful ones. Not recently, but it's definitely possible for sure. Um, Carolina job, I don't know why anyone would ever take this job, but they hired Dave Canales. Um, I all I can say is good luck, man. They fired like five coaches in the last 4 years, so yeah, you're probably not gonna have a job by the end of the year because ownership and that general manager just they don't know what the fuck they're doing. It's a super toxic, environment to be working in. And like I said, when you've had more coaches in the last 4 years than you've had actual seasons of football, yeah, you're doing something wrong there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even if Dave Canales has actually proves himself to be a good coach, I mean, he's not going to last that long in Carolina unless they get the team turned around.
No, it's going to be very very tough to get that team turned around, considering the roster that they have and the GM's indecision on who to have as a head coach. You can't give a guy one season and be like, okay, you're out because we didn't win. With what it's your fault the roster's this way. No one's gonna win with this roster. So I think if anything, it shouldn't really be the coaches getting fired. It should be that this GM in Carolina. I don't understand it. Um, but yeah, Jim Harbaugh obviously going over to LA, leaving Michigan. I saw today he had someone asked him if he left Michigan in a good place, and he said, yeah, I left him in a great place. No, 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 you didn't, Jim. You are actively trying to steal all the coaches off that staff. I mean, Jesse Minter was a given that that's an NFL coordinator right there, anyways. But trying to get um, the strength coaches, the conditioning coaches. I heard things that he was trying to get Mike Hart to come. Offensive line coach is going with him. I mean, he is destroying Michigan. And obviously Michigan has no recruits, no quarterback to replace McCarthy. I mean, he left Michigan in a terrible spot. So I don't know what the hell he's doing there. That said, I like this hire a lot for LA though. Jim Harbaugh, he's a good coach. I mean, he's a fucking weirdo and a lying scumbag, but he is a good coach. And he has a great quarterback to work with in Justin Herbert. So it's a good hire. I think it's a really good fit. Although I don't know if Herbert's gonna like having to hand the ball off a lot.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the Chargers do moving forward here.
Yeah, that's all you got on him.
Yeah, I mean, well, they, they've been so down in the dumps that, I mean, Harbaugh is definitely going to be able to take this team at least out from where they've been the last few years. But I don't have anything too crazy to say, to be honest. I mean, I definitely feel like they are going to be better. They could definitely make the playoffs here. I think that they definitely have a lot of talent, but we'll just have to see how it goes, man. I know Harbaugh was a huge fan of Herbert, so we'll see how those two work together, and yeah, bring him a lot of those other Michigan guys with them to be on the staff.
It's gonna be very interesting to see exactly what he does, but yeah. Mike McDonald's been named head coach for Seattle. Huge hire here for them. Obviously, he's got big shoes to fill from the retiring Pete Carroll. Good hire. I like this hire a lot. I think it's a really good fit for Seattle. I don't necessarily think they need to rebuild, but they definitely need to retool. Because obviously the quarterback situation is their biggest issue right now. I mean, Geno Smith ain't gonna get you far, and they have Drew Lock as a backup, and we know how bad he is. So it's they just need to find a way to get a good quarterback, whether it's drafting one or finding one in free agency. But good luck finding one of those in free agency. So for Mike McDonald, it's kind of just like he doesn't. I don't know where he should go with this team. Whether they try to tank and get a good draft pick for next year or not, but he's got his work cut out for him for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, man, just he's kind of in the same situation as Raheem Morris, where he's like the Seahawks, like the Falcons, they have talent, they have players, just getting that QB right. Because I mean, Geno had those spurts throughout the year, but he's not our long term solution. I mean, Geno's getting up there in age; he's not a franchise quarterback. Just finding that QB, and like you said, it's like another defensive minded coach. So, how well is he even going to work with the new QB? It's going to be interesting to see. So, yeah, Seattle, I feel like it's in a very similar boat as Atlanta.
Yeah, very similar. I mean, their records are not too far apart from each other, and they both just don't have a good quarter. I mean, Seattle has something serviceable in Geno Smith, but they got to find a better solution, and also just retooling their offensive weapons as well. I think that's going to be a big priority over the next 2 seasons for them. Dan Quinn's been hired for Washington.
Yeah.
This one's interesting. I mean, a defensive-minded head coach on a team that needs help everywhere now, especially, but mostly on that offensive line. I understand Sam Howell's not that guy. I think he's serviceable. If he had a line in front of him this year, I think they would have won a few more games, but they don't have a good left tackle. They don't have a good, uh, well, literally every position on their offensive line is just straight bums. Um, so he's got his work cut out for him there. I mean, it's a mess in Washington for sure. I mean, they have no defense, they have no offense. I know they would want to move away from Sam Howell, but I I would rather get you know some offensive line pieces first before you move on to a quarterback because you're just going to get a good quarterback killed. I mean, Sam Howell was the most sacked quarterback this year by a mile, and it's due to the fact that he had no protection at all this year. Um, he was pressured on like over 90% of his dropbacks this year, which is insane. He was sacked, 3, 4, 5 times a game, and that wears on a quarterback. And who knows if you draft a really good quarterback and you have this offensive line in front of them, they could get injured very quickly. And I think offensive line should be the first thing Washington addresses. And I think Dan Quinn might be the guy to do that, but knowing that he's a defensive coach, he might go and try and get some good defensive players first.
Yeah, like you said, man. Before Washington even focuses on a QB, they need to fix the entire roster. Basically, everyone but Terry McLaurin is like gotta go or be replaced with a better option because I mean they just don't have it, man. They traded away both their DNs at the deadline last year. Um, they got a lot of stuff to work on, and Dan Quinn's bringing that cowboy culture, man. Like, I'm not too crazy about Dan Quinn, to be honest, but um, we'll see how he does. I mean, like I said, you can only do as much as the team that you have provided. So, as long as Washington can just start building the draft, then that's where they got to start. They got to start building this team up to where they can actually be contenders.
Yeah, and they definitely could be, but it starts now, and they just got to give Dan Quinn some time because he's coming into a really, really, really bad situation, almost as bad as what Dan Campbell walked into a few years ago with the Lions, but a little bit. I wouldn't say worse. A worse situation offensively, defensively. No, but yeah. So that's a very good hire, I think. I mean, like I said, defensive coordinator, but hey, he might be able to figure something out. Same with Tennessee and Brian Callahan. They hired him as their head coach. Kind of an interesting hire, one I didn't really see happening, but it happened. And it's not a bad hire by any means, but I wouldn't necessarily say it is the greatest hire either. Um, but he offensive minded, so obviously something very very good here for them. Uh, they have some pieces still to work with on the offensive line, but that's really all they got. I mean, they got no quarterback because I don't think Will Levis is going to cut it out for them. And um, yeah, the defense is kind of pretty shit too, but I think overall he's in a much better position than what Dan Quinn's walking into, or even what Dave Canales is walking into either.
Yeah, I mean, both just kind of in that uh, situation where it's like kind of hard. I do think Brian Callahan is, definitely serviceable. But Derrick Henry's on his last leg. He's already pretty much made it clear he's out of Tennessee. Will Levis is all right. I don't see Will Levis being the future of this team. It's just again, we got to rebuild the whole team.
Yeah, they definitely need to rebuild this entire team, but it's It's gonna be a long process for sure, but I think overall, yeah, just a slightly better, um, you know, situation. And Tennessee's not a bad job either. So I mean, I think for him it will work out. He's a very good offensive coordinator, so I think that will definitely help Seattle or not Seattle, Tennessee going forward there. Um, and that's really all the big hires, big names that I really wanted to talk about. Um, and yeah, so that's gonna wrap that up. So Mike, let's get into some NBA power rankings.
Yes, sir. Uh, so we went through the power rankings. I think it was 2 weeks ago. So definitely things have changed since then. I guess the one consistent is that the Pistons are always going to be at the bottom. Um, but yeah, lots of things have changed, and we're coming up here to the All-Star breaks. So lots of teams trying to be better. So yeah, we'll get right into it. We're just doing a top 10 here. It's from NBA.com. Same as usual source here. Number 10, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers, who actually just beat the Pistons last night. At the time of this article, they were 27 and 16, 16th on offense, third on defense. So definitely need to get that offense up a little bit. But yeah, one of the best defensive teams. Evan Mobley's back for them, who is a great key piece for them. Jarrett Allen is such an underrated player and who does a lot of great things under the basket. But Donovan Mitchell is carrying this offense, man. Donovan Mitchell's been one of the most underrated players this season, I think. He has been doing wonders for Cleveland. Cleveland has a lot of good role players as well, like Karis LeVert, Max Strus, Isaac Okoro, guys like that who can fill in spots and give you solid minutes here. You also have Darius Garland coming back, who that's a big name for him for sure. So, yeah, I see the Cavs actually being a little bit better moving forward here than that number 10 spot, but still here looking good. Number 9, we have the Phoenix Suns. 26 and 20, 10th on offense, 16th on defense. So the thing with the Suns this year is their advanced stats don't look as promising. Like, they don't really blow you away, but when you have Durant and Booker on the same team, two top 10 players right there, kind of hard not to put them in the top 10 when they have the two stars. But yeah, they've definitely not been as good as I thought they would be this year. Phoenix, Bradley Beal was out most of the season. He's back now, but he's not even doing, he's doing okay as a third option, but they just really haven't had that much strong chemistry, to be honest. And definitely, I think Phoenix will make the playoffs, but they're probably going to be a lower seed, and hopefully they can figure out what's going on with their team before the playoffs start. Number 8 here, we have the New York Knicks, and I already know that next time we do the power rankings, the Knicks are going to be way higher on the list because they went like 14-2 in January, and it was the first time the Knicks won or led the league in wins in a month since like 1994. So, yeah, man, the Knicks are on fire right now.
Yeah, they've been dominating like everyone too. I mean, they have been really, really good lately.
For real. They're 8th on offense and 7th on defense, so both in the top 10 there. Pretty consistent. Ever since the OG Anunoby trade, I mean, they're 12-2 with OG Anunoby, 11-1 with him and Brunson. Yeah, they won, like you said, they won over the Timberwolves, the Sixers, the Nuggets by 38, and the Heat. So they're beating good teams too on this run. So we'll get into it later as well, but about the All-Stars. But they have 2 All-Stars as well that were named. So the Knicks got a promising future, but it is the Knicks. They'll probably end up choking somehow. Spike Lee will probably lose his shit, like how it goes every year.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's the same thing every year. Him and Spike Lee and Stephen A. Smith will lose their shit. The Knicks choked again in the second round. But This definitely looks like the best Knicks team that I've probably seen. This is probably comparable to like the 2013 Knicks when they had like Carmelo. That was probably the best Knicks team I've seen in my generation. But yeah, they look good. Brunson looks great. Julius Randle, like I said, OG Anunoby is been great for him. And let's just hope Thibs doesn't run him into the ground, man, like he did freaking Luol Deng and Derrick Rose. There's the kind of a running joke that's going around. Their coach Tom Thibodeau, he used to coach the Bulls, of course, and he was known for playing like he's playing OG Anunoby like damn near the whole game. It's like, bro, give this man some time on the bench, bro. Like you're gonna wear this man out like you did Derrick Rose and get him injured.
It's like the Marvel meme of like get this man a shield. It's like get this man some rest.
Yeah, honestly, that's how it is. So number 7 here, Minnesota Timberwolves, 32-14, 19th on offense, number 1 on defense. Of course, that's where the Timberwolves are thriving this year is on defense. And Anthony Edwards kind of just dragging this offense. Like I said, Cat and Rudy Gobert are the anchors of this defense. So, I mean, they're only giving up. So the defensive rating is 108.9. That's pretty sad nowadays, man, to think that the number 1 defense is still giving up almost 110 points in the NBA today. Just crazy.
That's what happens when no one focuses on defense anymore. It's only about offense.
Yeah, like if you would have told someone back in like the mid 2000s, like those games were like it'd be rare to see teams hit triple digits. Now it's like every game, if you don't hit triple digits, like you just had like a bad shooting night because no one's playing defense. Yeah, so the Wolves, I know that they have had their struggles, like I said, especially on offense. But again, another team with 2 All-Stars named and a lot of good role players. I don't think they're going to be that much of a threat in the playoffs, even though they'll probably land a top 4 seed out in the West. I just think that they don't have the experience yet. They're still a youngish team. So we'll see how they perform. But number 6 here, geez, a team that's been going through so much recently, the Milwaukee Bucks. They had 3 head coaches within the span of like a week. They hired Doc Rivers, the ultimate choker. They're number 2 on offense, but number 19 on defense. And that's where I think a lot of people were blaming Adrian Griffin, their former coach. They were like, why did they fire him when he was 30-12? And the reason mainly is the defense. Their defense has not been good this year, even though they have good defenders like Giannis, who's won a Defensive Player of the Year. Brook Lopez, who's one of the best shot blockers in basketball. He's, I think, top 2 in blocks right now. They just, other than those 2, they don't really have any defense. When they traded for Damian Lillard and got rid of Drew Holiday, I mean, Dame brings you that offense. I mean, number 2 rated offense, but that kills their defense. But like we kind of mentioned, there really isn't much defense in the NBA anymore. So, I mean, I guess it's not too much of a sacrifice. But, yeah, they basically are just on a mission to outscore teams at this point to win games. And moving in number 5 here, these guys were number 1 last time we talked about them. And I still stand by and love their team. That's the Oklahoma City Thunder. Number 6 on offense, number 4 on defense. Again, just super solid numbers right there. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, one of the best players in the league. Chet, J-Dub, and Lou Dort. I'm not even going to mention Josh Giddey because that's a whole other animal. But they got a lot of great players on that team. I know that Jalen Williams or J-Dub just suffered an injury here, so that's definitely going to be tough for them, but they're still going to be a top seed out west. Again, not much of a playoff experience with this team. They're a lot younger, but another new up-and-coming team that it's good to see Oklahoma City back and getting good wins because they were winning a lot when they had Durant and Westbrook, but never won that championship, and now they were bad for all those years, and now they're back finally good again. Number 4 here is the Philadelphia 76ers. Number 5 on offense, number 6 on defense. I mean, Joel Embiid just scored 70 points. Then again, also Joel Embiid is hurt right now. he messed up his meniscus, and he's not going to win MVP because there's a games requirement now that the NBA put in where you don't play at least 65 games, you are not eligible for All NBA or for MVP voting. And he has like 3 games I think he can miss before he's ineligible, and he just messed up his knee, like I said. So he is definitely not going to meet the game requirement, but they, I think, are more concerned with the playoffs as they have always been struggling in the playoffs here, which has been 76ers' downfall. But if they can somehow find a way to get this team going in the time when the playoffs start, it's going to be a dangerous team out in the East. Number 3 here, we have the Denver Nuggets. 7th on offense, 12th on defense. Right now, Jokic is probably looking like the MVP with Embiid now being pretty much out of it with him missing all these games. Jokic is still, he's still the best player in basketball, in my opinion. He won the championship last year, did it with a non-super team. Like, this Nuggets team is really good, but no one would classify them as a stacked superstar team. And yeah, they're always going to be here towards the top as long as they got Jokic. Number 2, a team that's been at the top, seems like all season, that is the Boston Celtics. 3rd on offense, 2nd on defense. It's the Celtics. They are going to continue to have great performances here, great players. Derek White, one of their role players, might be the best role player in basketball. He has the best plus-minus of any player in basketball right now. Same with Porzingis. He's up there in that category as well. Tatum and Brown have both been on paper what they usually do for the season, but just gonna have to see how they do in the playoffs as well. This is a fearful team, I feel like, that is going to be making a lot of headway here in the playoffs as well. But coming here at number 1, we have a new number 1 team, and that is going to be the LA Clippers. Who would have thought the LA Clippers, man? So 4th on offense, 11th on defense. Their offensive and defensive ratings aren't that great, but dude, they're like 16-4 or something like that in their last 20 games. Like, they're 27-7 here, showing since since they traded for James Harden. They're hot, man. They've been hot for like I said, 2 or 3 months now. They have been rolling. Something about this team, man. I don't know. It feels so weird because it's just a whole bunch of ex-superstars put together. It's Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. All 4 guys who were MVPs or MVP candidates at one point. Leonard and George are still pretty good and at the top of the league, but Harden's still serviceable, but he's not the player he used to be, and Westbrook is like more of a bench player now. But they have it figured out, man. They have something about them is able to win games, and that's what you need. I mean, it doesn't matter how the team's structured as long as you win games. That's at the end of the day. That's how you're going to compete in this league. So I kind of dig the Clippers here being at 1 with them being so dominant for at least a couple months now. They deserve to be hailed as the number 1 team right now. But yeah, do you have any thoughts here on these teams?
I mean, I didn't expect them to be number 1 at all, but they've been very, very dominant as well over the last, 2 months now. I mean, I think, what'd you say? They were 16
27-7 and 16-4.
Yeah, 16-4 in their last 20. I mean, that is impressive, to say the least. I mean, that is really, really, really good. And they aren't ranked high either defensively or offensively, but I expect that to change if they keep playing at the rate that they're playing. I expect their offense and defensive numbers to just keep improving. But I just wanted to make a joke real quick about you said Giannis won Defensive Player of the Year, or who won Defensive Player of the Year last year?
I don't know if it was last year. I'm pretty sure. Let me take a quick look. I know he won a Defensive Player of the Year at one point. But so last year was Jaren Jackson Jr. actually.
Gotcha.
Memphis. Yep.
My joke was is why do they have a Defensive Player of the Year award for a league that doesn't play defense? That's
Facts, man.
like come
Like,
on now.
and
Like
I mean, even the guy who won it last year, Jaren Jackson Jr. I mean, he was mainly known for blocking shots. I mean, that was like how his. I mean, he's a big man. He's not really known for on ball defending. So, uh, just it's always been kind of a big man's award. Like I said, just being a good rim protector is like the main thing. Just keeping shots out of the paint. But yeah, like even rim even like rim protection and defense is so little nowadays that it's just like, yeah, how do you even pick among the pool of uh, these players that aren't even playing defense?
yeah, I don't know how you pick that out, but I mean, yeah, no, I like these rankings a lot. Um, and yeah, so let's get on to the NHL here. These are my own power rankings, of course. So let's get into it. Number 10, I have the Las Vegas Golden Knights. They've kind of just been falling down the order for me recently. They have not been playing the greatest. They are back up into my top 10. If I had, gone up to 16, I think last time I did my power rankings, I probably would have had them around 12 or 13. So they've kind of picked up their pace a little bit, but they've uh, they've still been pretty inconsistent. But I think they're looking to this to the All-Star break to try and rest a bunch of guys and make sure no one gets hurt in the All-Star game this weekend. At number 9, I have Tampa Bay. They've been really good over the last 2 or 3 weeks here. Um, they're kind of starting to play like the Tampa Bay of old. The good Tampa Bay teams that won the cups. Not necessarily the team that got swept by Columbus in the first round because that was just embarrassing. But um, no, they've been playing very very good, consistent hockey. Nothing too flashy, but they never were really a flashy team. They just had a lot of good players that could get the job done on both ends of the ice. So, and they moved themselves up. Number 8, I have the Red Wings. Dominant, really, since the Christmas break. They lost obviously to Ottawa last night in overtime, and I I want to talk about overtime in the NHL, but that's on a different episode because overtime has gotten a little ridiculous at this point in the NHL. Um, but still, Detroit has been very, very good in December. I think they only have 4 losses in the entire month. Um, I'd have to look at that to be sure, but that sounds about right. Let me actually look real quick. Um, but that said, offensively, still one of the best teams in the league. Defensively, they give up quite a bit too. Um, but yeah, overall, they're still just a really, really good team. Um, yeah, so yeah, they had 4 losses in all of January. They went 9-2-2 in January. Very very good. And a lot of that was against really good teams. I mean, they beat Tampa Bay. They lost to Edmonton in overtime, and Edmonton is on fire right now. They beat Vegas. They beat LA twice. Um, they beat Toronto, and they shut out Philly, who's a really really good team. So I mean, uh, Detroit, yeah, just they've been very good. Larkin's on I think a 16 game point streak as well. Um, So, he's playing at a very, very high production pace. I think he's also on like a 6 or 7 game goal streak as well. On top of that 16 game point streak. So, yeah, no, Red Wings playing very good. Number 7, I have the Winnipeg Jets. Um, they were number 1 last time I did my power rankings. No, they were number 2 last time I did my power rankings. Um, yeah, they out of nowhere, man, they just started losing some games, pretty bad games too. Um, they've just fallen off. Colorado's taking the lead of the Central Division now. Um, Granted, Colorado's played 2 more games, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that Winnipeg hasn't been playing well. I mean, Winnipeg, I don't know what happened exactly, but yeah, they just something just kind of turned off. They were extremely hot, and now they're just. I wouldn't necessarily say they're cold right now, but they've definitely cooled off a lot. At number 6, I have the Colorado Avalanche, who have been the opposite of Winnipeg over the last 6, 7 games now. They've been very, very productive offensively. Defensively, they still give up, high danger chances a lot, but overall they've been a good team, good solid team all year. Um, but the defense does need to kind of uh, you know fix itself because they're not too far ahead in this division, and this division is very, very tough with Winnipeg and Dallas still in it as well. At number 5 here, I have Boston. They've fallen. Last time I had them ranked, I think I had them at yeah, no, I had them at 5 here. So they've been good all through January. They won a lot of games, but they also lost some games that they probably shouldn't have. But it is the NHL, and everyone can beat anyone on any single night. And we've seen this. Every single team. I saw like a stat earlier. It was basically, like it kind of just connected who lost to who. Um, and basically it made an entire circle around the entire league. So I mean, any given night you can lose games, but Boston offensively very, very productive still. It's just goaltending, and I think is their biggest issue. Not necessarily defense is an issue, but goaltending definitely an issue for them. Number 4, staying at number 4 for my last rankings is actually no, moving down one spot from my rankings is Florida. They had a really, really good start to January, and then their last few games, man, I don't know if some injuries had to be part of it, but yeah, this last part of January just did not go in their favor at all. I mean, a loss to Minnesota, a loss to Anaheim in overtime, a loss to New Jersey, who's not as good as they should be on paper. They just it wasn't, and lose or beating the Islanders in overtime, who are not a good team this year. I mean, they took some losses in this last stretch over January that they really shouldn't have, but they were able to, overall still have a winning record in January. But lot of losses to teams that they probably shouldn't have lost to. So yeah, number 3 here, jumping all the way up. Well, not all the way up, but jumping up 3 spots from number 6. I have the Carolina Hurricanes. Over their last few weeks, they've gone 4-2-0. They've been really, really good. They lost to LA and they lost to Minnesota, but they beat Detroit, they beat Boston, they beat New Jersey, and then they beat Arizona, who is not too far off from making the playoffs this year. But January overall for them was really, really good. Only having 3 losses in the entire month. Um, Granted, they've beaten some bad teams, but they've also beaten some really good teams, like I said, to Detroit and to Boston, and they beat Pittsburgh and they beat the Rangers in January as well. So they've been very good recently. But like I said, I think last time I did the power rankings, I think goaltending is still their biggest question mark, but the offense has been enough to keep them up there. Staying at number 2, I have the Vancouver Canucks. They just made actually a trade yesterday, getting Elias Lindholm from Calgary for a bunch of picks and some role players. Um, that said, they've been on fire this year. They have a ton of All Stars in the All Star game, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Um, so yeah, they've been very good on both ends of the ice. I mean, very very productive for them in the offensive zone specifically. I think they're the best. Well, outside of Edmonton, they're the second best offense in the West. Just really really good all year. They kind of started out slow, but yeah, man, they've been really really good. Sent really since the first couple weeks of the season. Offensively, like I said, very good, and defensively, obviously they have Quinn Hughes, who's really turned into a really nice, solid number one defenseman on their team. And then Thatcher Demko is having a career year for him, so very good in net for them. Number 1, I have the Edmonton Oilers. They were number 9 last time I did my power rankings. They're at number 1 now. They're on a 16-game winning streak. They haven't lost a game since before Christmas, I believe. Let me double check that real quick. When was their last loss? Yeah, their last loss was December 19th. So, 16-game win streak going into the All-Star break with a huge, huge, boost of just domination and consistency. Granted, they've beaten a lot of bad teams in this stretch. I mean, the Islanders, Chicago, Columbus, Nashville, Seattle, Montreal, Ottawa. I mean, they haven't beaten a ton of good teams on this streak, but they did beat Toronto and Detroit and Philly. So I mean, it's not all bad, but man, they fire their head coach in November, and now they're just an extremely good team this year. So they're going to be a threat in the playoffs for sure. And they have the number 1 offense in the league right now. So yeah, that's my power rankings. You got anything else on that?
Man, I'm so happy to see Edmonton number 1. Not because I'm a big Edmonton fan, but because I'm a big McDavid fan. So, I mean, just to see McDavid finally get some success, I guess. I mean, I know they've made the playoffs before, but just 16-game winning streak. Let's go.
Yeah, huge win streak for them for sure, and so that's gonna wrap up that. So now we're gonna talk a little bit of the All-Star game. New format this year. We have there's one representative from each division. That's a captain of a team, and then they draft teams. So we have our team. So I'll just go over the rosters real quick. So we got Team Hughes, which is led by Quinn Hughes. He's got Elias Pettersson as the assistant captain. So those two, obviously teammates in Vancouver. and will be teammates in this game. They picked a lot of Canucks in this game, but they got Nikita Kucherov on their team, Thatcher Demko, of course, their number one goalie, Kyle Connor from Winnipeg, Brady Tkachuk, Jesper Bratt, Cam Talbot is going to be their backup goalie. They got Brock Besser, JT Miller, and Frank Vetrano. So yeah, a lot of Canucks on Team Hughes here. So yeah, that's very, very interesting for sure. Team Austin Matthews, he had Justin Bieber as his GM for this game. So we got Austin Matthews, of course, the captain, and the Morgan Riley, one of his teammates, is his assistant captain. And same theme here. A lot of Maple Leafs on this roster. He's got Nylander and Mitch Marner, of course. Jake Ottinger in net. Clayton Keller from Arizona, and Clayton Keller's amazing. Matt Barzal, Igor Shesterkin. Pretty sure he's going to be the number one goalie for this team. Philip Forsberg, Alex DeBrincat, and then Vincent Trocheck from the Rangers. Very solid team. I like this one a lot. So yeah. Team Nathan McKinnon. He's the captain of this team. He's got Cale Makar, of course, as his assistant captain. They got Sidney Crosby, Alexander Georgiev from Colorado. He's going to be in net for them. Kirill Kaprizov, Sebastian Aho, Tom Wilson is the Washington representative in the All-Star game. That's why not OV, but okay. But you have Jeremy Swayman as well from Boston in net. Travis Konechny, Elias Lindholm, and Oliver Bjorkstrand. And then for Connor McDavid's team, he's got Draisaitl, his assistant captain, of course. Connor Hellebuck, that's huge for this team. Rasmus Dahlin, Robert Thomas, Sam Reinhart, Sergei Bobrovsky, Boone Jenner, Nick Suzuki, and Thomas Hertl for this team. Saturday, we got the matchups between these teams. We'll have McKinnon versus McDavid, and then Hughes versus Matthews, starting at 3 p.m. Right now, we have the Women's League showcase. That's a 3-on-3 game that's going on right now. But I guarantee you no one's watching because who really cares? It is what it is there. Skills competition is tomorrow afternoon. So obviously the lot of people are going to be watching that, of course. New format for that as well. I like this format with the player draft this year. I think it's gonna make things interesting. It's a 3-on-3, kind of game. It's gonna be fun to watch. It's gonna be very, very high scoring, I feel, because there's very few defensemen in the All-Star games this year, and most of the defensemen that are in the game are very offensive minded defensemen. So. I think this is going to be a huge, you're going to see something like, 13, 14 goals a team. I mean, it's going to be ridiculous this year. But it's going to be fun to watch for sure. I'm just more interested in what we have for the skills competition. So that's going to be very interesting to watch tomorrow night. That's going to wrap up our All-Star game, unless Mike, you got anything you want to talk about on it.
Yeah, so I actually wanted to bring up the NBA. So they announced their reserves as well. I think that's interesting how NHL did pick your teams, because that's how the NBA did it for the last few seasons, where they had captains and they would do a draft and they would draft their teams. But this year they went back to the traditional East-West format that they had been in place for all the years before. So it's good seeing the NHL doing that. Maybe it'll work out for them and see how it goes for them. Definitely feel like they're, the skills competition and things for them are a lot bigger. NBA, they've had the 3-point contest and the dunk contest, which have been kind of underwhelming the last 4 or 5 years. But the game itself, I got a whole bunch of new rules and things like that. It's going to be high scoring, of course. But yeah, I just wanted to address the uh, NBA reserves today that were announced. So the starters were announced, I think, last week. And so the West, LeBron James is the captain of the West with Kevin Durant, Luka Doncic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic as the other starters. Definitely feel like that is a solid five there. And in my opinion, I mean, even though LeBron's not what he once was, he's still incredible. Definitely deserving of being in that captain spot for the West. And in the East, Giannis is the captain out East with Joel Embiid, who's I don't even know if Joel Embiid is going to be healthy to play in the game, but Joel Embiid, Tyrese Halliburton, another person who's been dealing with injuries, Damian Lillard, and Jason Tatum as his starters. Definitely prefer the West over the East here for the starters, but those were announced last week. So today we have the reserves, and man, there were some controversial picks on this one. So for the West here, we had Devin Booker, Steph Curry, Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Karl Anthony Towns were the people who made it as reserves for the game. And, some of them controversial, some of them not. I mean, Curry, AD, I feel like those two guys and Kawhi are pretty not controversial, but Karl Anthony Towns making it and Sabonis or De'Aaron Fox from the Kings not making it is crazy. I did not see Karl Towns making it. I get the Timberwolves have been pretty good this year, but yeah, I can't believe that Karl Towns made it over Sabonis. I think Sabonis has had a better year. Sabonis is averaging like 20 and 13. Uh, I saw that the Kings were the only team that were in the top six in their conference that did not have an All Star. So yeah, De'Aaron Fox and or Sabonis kind of got snubbed there out in the West, but it's so tough because there's only so many spots that can be filled up. So, but the rest of the team though they're looking pretty good. Out east, we had Bam Adebayo, Paolo Banchero as a first-time All-Star. Same with Jalen Brunson, Jalen Brown, Tyrese Maxey, Donovan Mitchell, and Julius Randle. So got two Knicks in there. Like I said, some first-time All-Stars. Paolo, Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, all first-time All-Stars out in the East. But man, I can't get myself to put Julius Randle in. Man, I think that Trae Young definitely got snubbed. I mean, I get that Trae Young's team hasn't been doing as great, but Trae Young's averaging like almost 30 and 10, and I just think that as a player, man, he got snubbed last year as well. So definitely tough for Trae Young not to make this team. But I like the rest of it. To be honest with you, I think that all these guys are deserving, in my opinion, um, to make it. Like I said, Karl Towns and Julius Randle probably the two least deserving, but still they've been having incredible years. I can't really take that away from them. In my opinion, I think the West is a lot stronger teams, stronger names. The East has a lot of younger guys, a lot of young and up and coming guys, while the West has a lot of established stars that have been around a while. Like I said, Durant, LeBron, and Curry kind of been the face of the league for the last 10 years, so they're all out West. Do you have any thoughts on these selections?
Not really. I mean, a little controversial, but I mean, at the same time, these some of these picks are not. I wouldn't necessarily say super controversial, but I mean, they've had good years overall. So I mean, I understand some people's arguments. This player over that player, but at the end of the day, I mean, if you really look at it, you know, a lot of these guys, yes, are playing on not great teams either. Uh, so I feel like being snubbed for that, you know, that part kind of sucks, but it is what it is. There, I think.
Yeah. It
Just
just
it,
just so
it's what you get with this format where not every team gets to get represented in the All-Star game.
yeah, that's the thing. It's like there's so much talent, man. Like I guess that's a good problem to have that we have debates and stuff. But then again, it's like, man, sucks that that person didn't get in. Like no one from the Pistons was even close to making it. Like even Cade, our best player, not even a. I don't even know if he got a vote, to be honest with you, to make the All Star team. There's just not enough spots for a team that has 5 wins to make it. But it seemed like they definitely took that more into account. A lot of the top teams had multiple All Stars, which definitely makes sense. You know, they're winning games, so they're contributing to winning more.
Yeah, I mean, um, that's just how it goes sometimes. But I mean, I like this where not every team's guaranteed a spot or having someone as their all star. But if you're gonna go with it like the NHL, I mean, please make it that like um, that the actual like best player on the team goes to All Star game. I don't know why we have DeBrincat there and not Larkin, but that's besides the point. But yeah, that I think is gonna wrap us up. Longer episode than I think we were thinking we were gonna have, but nonetheless a good episode for sure. Uh, Obviously Tuesday, I'm not gonna really break down what happens in the All Star game because I mean it's the All Star game, but yeah. Next week's gonna be a heavy focus on the Super Bowl. Um, Especially on Thursday's episode next week. Spring training's coming up for baseball, like I said, so we're gonna start talking about that soon. But anyways, guys, rate, review, subscribe, help us out. Let us know what more you want to see from us. Check out our YouTube page because that's where we're lacking in some viewership. But outside of that, yeah, guys, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you guys on Tuesday.